Baseball is a very tough game, and it's very common for even the best prospects in the game to struggle right when they get to the majors. Like, think about Mike Trout, who had a 220 batting average and 670 OPS in 40 games the first time he came to the major leagues. The next year, in his first full season, he came in second in the MVP award. Also, Aaron Judge, who struck out in nearly half of the 95 plate appearances he took the first time he came up to the big leagues, and then the following year setting the rookie record with 52 home runs. So I have a list of 5 rookies who were not great in their debuts last season, but could still be on pace to become stars sooner rather than later. If you guys are not already, please subscribe to the channel down below, and don't forget to drop this video a like. Alright, now the first rookie I want to talk about who's coming off a very weird 2025 season but is set up for stardom is Bubba Chandler, starting pitcher on the Pirates. I really think in terms of just pure stuff and makeup, Chandler has everything to be a top 30 starting pitcher from the get-go this coming season. And he was a favorite on this channel last year because it felt like he was on a similar timeline to Paul Skeens from the year before, where he pitched really well in AAA to end the 2024 season, tore through spring training, and didn't really need much time before he was ready to be a major league pitcher. But after a great start to the season in AAA, where he had a 1.42 ERA through 6 starts with a 40% walk rate and 8% strikeout rate through the month of April, the Pirates just left him in AAA. And it really felt like he was clearly a major league pitcher. Again, those stats speak for themselves. He has a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, a nasty slider, an improving changeup. There was really nothing else for Bubba Chandler to prove. But that call-up just didn't come right away, and that seemed to really frustrate Chandler, who after May 1st dragged himself to a 4.94 ERA and 1.75 whip for the rest of his time he spent at AAA, which was a few more months. But even after pitching poorly in AAA, he still got called up to the Pirates in mid-August, which conveniently allowed them to save a year of his service time and maintain Chandler's rookie eligibility for this season. We love service time manipulation. It's very clear that's what the Pirates were doing with Bubba Chandler. And when he got that call up again, after not pitching that well in AAA, there was this really great moment from his debut I want to walk you guys through. In Chandler's second pitch as a big leaguer, Rocky shortstop Orlando Arcia scorched a double and immediately put Chandler under duress with a runner on second and nobody out. He got tough to end that inning, stranded Arcia on third base, and let out this wicked roar when he did it. It seemed like with that roar, he let out a lot of demons, and from that point on, he only faced the minimum over his final 3 innings of work and just looked like a beast. He made a few more similar long relief appearances like that. After a few of those, he transitioned to being a starter full-time, and overall stat line looked good, not great. You guys see it above. It's an ERA right at 4, 25% strikeouts. That looks totally okay. But in the first true start he made, he gave up 9 earned runs in 2 2/3 innings against the Brewers. He just got totally shellacked. That right there accounted for almost all of the damage that Chandler gave up in his brief stint last season. If you take that one bad start out of his game log, he had a 1.57 ERA last year in his first cup of coffee. Again, it's stupid to take out the guy's worst start. They understand that. But just to think about how much that one poor appearance was weighing down his ERA, where if Chandler's coming off a little stint like that with a 1.5 ERA, he has all the helium in the world. Because that ERA is over 4, I think he's just really a diamond in the rough. And we really saw how good he could be in his final 3 starts of last season, where he had 19 strikeouts, no walks, and a 1.08 ERA over 16 2/3 innings. The no walks are especially impressive because Chandler struggled a bit to throw strikes early on his tenure as a pro in the minor leagues, and again in that poor spell of AAA last summer. So even having just a 3% walk rate in about 30 innings pitched last season hints that this command is now plus. And all of this comes back to the fact that Bubba Chandler has some of the nastiest stuff in all of Major League Baseball right now. It's a triple-digit fastball that forces tons of swings and misses to the top of the zone, which creates just a beautiful foundation for him against batters from both sides of the plate. No one can catch up to it. Then he has a slider that's nasty against right-handed batters, a changeup that's nasty against left-handed batters. He's also working on this curveball that comes in a few ticks slower than his slider with a teeny bit more drop. It's still a work in progress, but another nice wrinkle for hitters to try and catch up with. Bottom line, Bubba Chandler's a stud. He has every chance to vault himself into something like the top 20 pitchers in the league this year. I don't know why he's not being talked about the same way as guys like Trey Savage, Nolan McLean, and Cam Schlittler are right now. He's that good. He should be in their tier, maybe even a half tick above them. He could be that good. Next up, we have Samuel Basallo, catcher, first base, DH, just a hitter on the Orioles. And this is a textbook case of people focusing a bit too much on a month of poor counting stats to allow us to wash away someone who is always considered one of the top prospects in baseball. Across the board, Basallo's been a consensus top 5 or top 10 prospect for years now. He absolutely decimated the upper minors as a 19, 20-year-old over the last few seasons. I have a great tweet here by O's Observations that Basallo having a 65 future value grade on the Fangraphs prospect chart is really significant because the only 65 future value hitters since 2022 are Julio Rodriguez, Bobby Witt, Gunnar Henderson, Corbin Carroll, Wyatt Langford, James Wood, Jackson Churio. That's the kind of tier Samuel Basallo is in as a position player prospect and just a pure hitter. The problem is, again, he's lost a lot of shine because of how poor he looked as a rookie. You guys see the stats above, and there was also a very, very ugly Savant page for Basallo. I know how everybody loves to run and grab those blue bubbles at this point in time, and I kind of want to dissect this ugly Savant page. I really think there's a lot of missed meaning in this right now, and I'll explain why. First up, by far the most important thing on here, Samuel Basallo has elite bat speed. Huge check mark. The rest of these bubbles, I don't really care about that much. I know that because he swings the bat as hard as he does, this is someone with elite raw power. It's a huge check mark for him. Also, I know Basallo chased a lot of pitches out of the strike zone, but he also swung a lot at pitches in the strike zone, shown here by his really high zone swing rate. So that's another check mark for me. The swing decisions aren't that bad. He knows when to attack the right pitches to hit. And another big piece right here. Samuel Basallo's high-end exit velocities were really good. I talked about 90th percentile exit velocities in my last video when talking about Connor Griffin. Basallo had a very high 90th percentile exit velocity and a very, very high max exit velocity, which again is telling us that the raw power is very real. And this all comes despite what was a very poor average exit velocity. And right now I'm going to go on a quick, short little diatribe on why I do not like average exit velocity and why it should not be relied upon heavily in analysis of players. Basallo only had 79 batted ball events last year. One of those 79 batted ball events was a little topper right here that he hit at 14.7 miles per hour. Then there were a few other dribblers around 50 miles per hour off the bat exit velocity. In this, again, pretty small sample. Let's even just say I take out that one worst hit batted ball, that 14.7 mile per hour topper. His average exit velocity suddenly goes from 89.1 miles per hour to 90.1 miles per hour. That would make that little blue bubble right there become a tiny little bit red if that were the change. And maybe that just changes someone's entire perspective on this player. On top of that, let's say we just take out a handful of these dribblers that all came in under 60 miles per hour. Suddenly, Samuel Basallo would have an average exit velocity of 92.7 miles per hour that will be bright red, all the way towards the 90th percentile, the exact same as Ronald Acuna Jr. and Nick Kurtz. So that's why we love to look to the 90th percentile exit velocity rather than the average. A few batted balls in a small sample can really skew it to the point where plus raw power is hiding in plain sight with Basallo, and it's really easy to miss. Past that, Basallo really has one of the best batted ball profiles we've ever seen from a minor leaguer, ever. I do not want to exaggerate. I do not want to be hyperbolic, but it's true. He dominated every level he ever played at power-wise, while always being one of the youngest players at that level. So much so that Samuel Basallo, as a professional baseball player, has never taken a plate appearance against a player that's younger than him. I'm going to say that again for effect. Samuel Basallo has never ever stepped in the box and faced a player that's younger than he is. In every single batter-pitcher interaction, Samuel Basallo has always been the younger one. And he has still been outrageously dominant. Even take his last season at AAA, still as a 20-year-old. He had 23 home runs in 76 games, 116 mile per hour max exit velocity, a 21% barrel rate, and a 57.4% hard hit rate. All of those stats are so unbelievably elite, it's not even funny. And shout out my guy Prospect Savant again for this amazing graphic and providing a lot of these metrics. Only thing that could possibly stop Basallo this season is whether or not he wins a starting job out of camp. The Orioles signing Pete Alonso kind of blocked him a little bit, especially because you still have Ryan Mountcastle and Kobe Mayo there. Older than Basallo, much older than Basallo in Mountcastle's case. They might have the opportunity to get a crack at a starting job ahead of him, but Basallo is better than them. He has higher potential than them. If he gets a starting spot on this team, he could go nuts. This could be an easy 35 homers, 850 OPS. It'll be all systems go if he gets full-time plate appearances. Next up, we have Jonah Tong, starting pitcher at the Mets. And this is another example of where a very small sample of Major League data is totally skewing what has been one of the best minor league track records we've seen in quite some time. Again, for a 22-year-old pitcher, one of the youngest starting pitchers in the league. And he is still a very incomplete pitcher at this moment, 100%. But if he didn't have a 7 ERA over 18 innings last September when the Mets were completely desperate for any arm possible, I think he'd be heading into the season with an outrageous amount of helium. That's really being overlooked. But those struggles in the major leagues are why he's on that list. So let's talk about them right now. A big reason that ERA jumped up to where it did was because of a really ugly blow-up start against the Rangers in September, where Tong allowed 6 earned runs in only 2/3 of an inning. I was at that game. The Mets were spiraling. It was just really bad scene all around. But the scariest part about that bad outing for Tong is actually how the Rangers approached him, not exactly how they hit the ball. They basically just never swung. He threw 40 pitches. They only swung 8 times. They only swung and missed once, and they chased 0 pitches out of the strike zone. They were able to kind of just sit back and wait for Tong to exhaust his off-speed pitches, his changeup mostly, and a smattering of curveballs, sit on the fastball, know the fastball was coming just because of how hard it was compared to the other pitches, and just lay the ball out for singles. And there were a bunch of guys on base because Tong was walking batters too, and just became a parade around the bases. And that's kind of the crux of where Jonah Tong is right now. Hitters can really just spit on his changeup and sit on his fastball. His fastball is amazing. It's the thing that makes him special. It has the chance to be one of the most elite pitches in the league with plus velocity and insane vertical action from where Tong releases the ball. He released it so far above his head that when he was first a minor leaguer, some pitch modeling softwares were picking him up as a lefty because this is how far over his head he was releasing the ball. It's crazy stuff. But hitters know that if that pitch is coming in high, it's just going to be the fastball. If that pitch is already looking like it's going to be above your belt, that's just when you swing at it. And if anything looks like it's going to be below that, you just let it go. Tong tried to adjust against this a little bit by throwing some fastballs lower in the zone, trying to tunnel them better off his changeup. But then the fastball was forcing less swings and misses, and that is his swing and miss pitch. And it plays much better high in the zone than low. So if you can pick off called strikes low, that's great, but really he still needed that high fastball to be elite. And I've mentioned the curveball a few times. The curveball looks good. It's an aesthetically pleasing pitch. Pitch models do still think it's plus, but it's just so obvious coming out of his hand. It's very slow. It comes very low, has a big hump. Major league hitters will just never take it seriously as it's constructed as a pitch right now. The big thing that Jonah Tong needs to elevate his profile and take him to the next step and allow his fastball to play is figuring out any pitch in his repertoire that can move to the glove side. So as a righty, a pitch that can move away from right-handed batters. There are some reports coming through this spring that there's a slider, sweeper variation he's working on. There's some slight reports that it's the hand of God sweeper, which is a hard sweeper with lift on it, something similar to that Cam Schlittler throws. That can get a good bit of glove side movement, but still come in hard and be able to use the natural lift that Tong gets from his really high release point. That's all good and well, but he has to execute on developing this pitch. At the same time, again, he's still 22 years old. He's still growing, getting stronger, picking up velocity. He's just a great guy, too. You can see in the way he interacts with his teammates and the media. He's a student of the game. He wants to be great. There are so many things he does well right now that's very easy to see him being very successful in the future. And on top of that, his minor league results were on par with a guy like Paul Skeens and the level of strikeouts he was inducing, swing and miss he was getting, and how few runs he was allowing. This is an unbelievably strong pedigree for a guy like Tong. He's going to open the season on the outside looking into the Mets rotation, but any small tweak, and he could be a frontline starter instantly. Maybe it doesn't happen this year. He's probably the one on this list I have the least confidence in exactly in 2026, but please keep an eye on him because when it happens, it's going to be amazing. There's also just such a fun group of first and second year pitchers that are going to be in the league this year. I've really talked about Chandler. Here's Tong. The Mets also have Nolan McClain. There's Trey Savage. There's Chase Burns. There's Cam Schlittler, guys I've mentioned. I'm going to do a whole big video on all of those guys soon because I think they're all really interesting together. And also quickly, just for the sake of this video, I'm only talking about players that are rookie eligible in the 2026 MLB season. So two guys who would qualify for this list technically, Jack Caglione and Chase Burns, guys who I think very highly of. They're not part of this group because they're not going to be rookies this season. They'll be in their own videos though, don't worry about that. Next up is Owen Casey, outfielder in the Marlins organization who was the headliner of the Edward Cabrera trade coming from the Chicago Cubs back to the Fish. And there was a cool report that came out around the time of this trade being made that the Cubs wanted Cabrera at the trade deadline, but the Marlins wanted Casey, and the Cubs weren't ready to budge. The Marlins held their line and got their guy, so they really like Casey, and there's a lot of really good reasons why. He didn't spend a lot of time in the major leagues last year. You guys see these stats above. They're basically meaningless. It only happened over 12 games that Casey played sporadically because the Cubs had such a deep outfield group ahead of him, but just looking back to all his upper minors numbers, you can see this guy can really mash. First of all, he's a physical specimen, 6'4", 220. The guy's a beast. He had 22 home runs at AAA last season, 19 the year before. Weirdly enough, he's already played 226 games at AAA, and he's still just 23 years old, which is crazy. But that's just because he moved so fast through the lower minors, but then got stuck behind all the Cubs outfield depth at the majors. So we kind of just play a lot of games AAA, which is not a bad thing. Over that 226 game stint, he had an 887 OPS at the level, and just like look at the power he has. Look at this like accidental home run he hit in spring 2024. Like how in the world on this swing do you get that ball out of the park? And then just going through his batted ball data, he had 2 batted balls over 115 miles per hour in 2024. He had a bunch over 113, 112 last season too. The power is amazing. And even just putting 15 balls in play in his first cup of coffee in the big leagues last year, he hit the ball 114 miles per hour. And this wasn't a cheapie either. This wasn't a worm burner, like a nice little 114 mile an hour ball straight to the ground. This is a rope in the gap. He also has a 75 mile per hour average bat speed to back all this up. And this is Casey's thing. He swings hard, hits the ball hard. and in the past has swung and missed a lot. But it seems like there was a big adjustment between 2024 and 2025 where Casey has really reined in the swing and miss that hampered his potential. Look at his whiff rates over here by month last season. Watch this thing tumble. It's kind of stark to see how much less often Casey was swinging and missing. And with doing that, he was able to pull and lift the ball significantly more. There was just some kind of catch in his pitch selection, his plate discipline, something worked here. And there's a great note here from Aaron Layton, who have been shouting out on this channel a lot, where Casey really focused on calming his pre-swing actions. And look at these two setups pre-pitch over here from Casey over the last 2 years. In 2025, there's much less noise before the pitcher starts to come to the plate. It just looks way simpler, way more routine. He's allowing his body to relax a little bit, get into a pitch, and figure out better ways to drive the ball. It's a very simple change that looks like it could have unlocked something truly special. I think because Casey always had the reputation also to have a lot of swing and miss in his game, people have underrated his swing decisions. Based on what we're seeing here from Prospect Savant, he knows when to swing at the right pitches in the zone, and he knows when to lay off a lot of the ones outside the zone. He's just not too accurate with the stick because he's taking war hacks, but we love that about him. That's his game. The craziest thing about this too is it seems like the Marlins are low-key just running back the Kyle Stowers playbook. They tried this last year and it worked so damn well. The funniest thing is that Casey's 5 years younger than Kyle Stowers, so to start Kyle Stowers out earlier, like Casey just could be a monster. It looks like he has the inside track to win a job in the Marlins outfield to start the season, and if he does, I just think this is a 30-homer bat. I really do. Very quickly becoming one of my absolute favorite sleepers this season. Last up on the big list, we have Bryce Eldridge, first baseman DH on the Giants, and Eldridge is just a monster. Like, this dude is 6'7", 250. Like, he looks like he'd be a power forward in Division I basketball. And with that, as he was coming through the minor leagues, he was hitting the crap out of the ball. He was only drafted out of high school in 2023 as a two-way player. In 2024, his first stint in pro ball, he had a cup of coffee in both AA and AAA. And last season, he had plate appearances in the major leagues. It's crazy how quickly this guy moved through. And just as a point of reference, some guys who have debuted at ages 20 or younger, you got Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis, Alex Rodriguez, Mike Trout, also guys like Jordan Walker. It runs the gamut, but basically you have to be considered an elite talent to be getting major league plate appearances at 20 years old. Eldridge checks that box. And do not let what you see above, a few poor weeks of baseball, cloud what could be really, really special power at the major league level. Again, I told you before, this guy's 6'7", 250. Physical specimen, athletic freak. But with that, it's kind of amazing how short he's able to keep his swing. It's very concise through the zone, very compact. Again, for a guy at 6'7" with those long levers. It was only a 7.1 foot average swing length last year, which is around the major league average. And again, he took 59 competitive swings. It's not the biggest sample in the world. It's also not the smallest sample in the world. I think this is something where Bryce Eldridge might not actually have a long swing, which for a guy his size, I can't believe it again. Still going to keep saying it. And with not even having that long of a swing, the exit velocities are insane. He had a 114.6 mile per hour batted ball AAA last year. He had a 460-foot home run also at the same level before turning 20 years old. And even though he didn't play much in the major leagues and he didn't really get many actual hits, his underlying stuff was actually really impressive. He had nearly a 70% hard hit rate and only 16 balls in play. Again, very small sample, but he was able to hit the ball very, very, very hard when he looked as raw as he did. He might get some more seasoning in the minors, truly. The way that the Giants add Luis Arias to their team at the end of the offseason and already having Rafael Devers at first base, it makes me think that it's possible that Eldridge just gets a little bit more seasoning in AAA. But whenever this clicks, this is a 40-homer bat. Again, it might be like a 220 average, 310 on base percentage 40-homer bat, but this looks like a 40-homer bat, and those do not grow on trees. And now just quickly to mention a few other guys, I just don't know how likely they are to get chances. The 5 guys above definitely are more likely to get chances. Peyton Tolley had a weird little stint at the end of the season with the Red Sox. Fastball still great, but they have so much pitching depth that a lot of guys are ahead of him now. Brandon Sproat traded from the Mets to the Brewers. He had some rocky moments last year in September, very similar to Tong, but Sproat did hold it together a little bit better. He looks like maybe the SP6 or SP7 the Brewers this year, and we know how much we trust the Brewers with young pitchers. Similarly, Logan Henderson was elite last year. He's maintained his rookie status just because of spending a lot of time on the injured list. I just don't know when he or Sproat or any of these guys get their chances. And then there were a lot of other impressive rookies last year that still have the rookie eligibility this year. Guys like Connolly Early, Carter Jensen, Sal Stewart, Mo Ballesteros, even Chase DeLauder, who got a cup of coffee in the playoffs for the Guardians, but they're being non-committal about him. I'm going to do a lot more content talking about a lot more players very soon, but these are the 5 rookies I think are being slept on now who just have star potential kind of in the snap of a finger. Thank you guys all so much for watching, though. It's going to be a lot more dedicated fantasy baseball content coming soon. Right now, I'm trying to kind of hit the through line between real baseball and fantasy baseball, but we're going to have player rankings soon, player debates. I think I might do some mock drafts or some live drafts on this channel. Let me know what kind of content you guys want. Please sound off in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.